All right, so you want to take your home lab to the next level, huh? We're going deep on Proxmox clusters with a NAS.
Yeah, a pretty powerful combo.
For sure. But first, what even is Proxmox?
It's basically software, right? It lets you manage virtual machines and containers all on one system.
So mini computers inside your computer.
Exactly. And a NAS. That's your network attached storage. Basically a big storage hub for all your devices.
Like all your data in one spot.
Yep. Easy to manage, easy to access, really powerful, especially if you want to run more demanding applications. Like imagine your own media server or a really, really smart home setup.
Wow, so it's like a mini data center right in your house.
Pretty much.
Okay, I'm kind of getting it. But when we talk about a Proxmox cluster, what does that even mean?
So a cluster, it's like teaming up, right? You have two or more Proxmox servers all working together.
Ooh, like combining their powers.
Exactly. More power, more resources, which is really important if you're doing something like streaming HD movies to a bunch of devices or, anything that needs a lot of processing power.
Ah, makes sense. So what else is good about this whole cluster thing?
Well, with a cluster, you get high availability.
High availability.
It means like if one server crashes, your stuff keeps running because it switches over to another server in the cloud.
Oh, that's smart. So no downtime.
As close as you can get, especially important if you're running, critical stuff like your own cloud storage or a VPN.
Yeah, that makes sense. But doesn't managing a whole cluster get, really complicated?
Not really. You manage everything from one place. Like imagine one control panel and you can see all your servers, create virtual machines, move data around. Super easy.
Oh, okay, that's not bad. So we've talked about clusters, but what about the NAS? Why is that so important?
Storage, storage, storage. Think of it like this. Your Homelab is generating tons of data, right?
Yeah.
And NAS keeps it all organized, safe, and easy to get to.
Okay, but wouldn't adding a NAS make things more complex? More stuff to manage?
Actually, it's the opposite. See, when you separate your storage from your processing, things run smoother. Your Proxmox nodes can focus on running applications, and the NAS just takes care of the data.
That's pretty cool.
Plus, a lot of NAS devices are designed to be really energy efficient, which is good, right?
Yeah, definitely. Especially these days. Okay, so this whole setup, the cluster and the NAS, it sounds amazing. But is it really for everyone?
That's a great question. Honestly, it depends. Like if you're just starting out with your home lab, a single Proxmox server might be enough.
Right, so it's not like everyone needs to run out and build this crazy setup.
Exactly. But if you're serious about your home lab, like if you need it to be super reliable and you want to be able to add more stuff later on, then yeah, this is worth considering.
Okay, so how do you know if this is right for you? What are the questions people should be asking themselves?
Well, first, think about how many services you're running and how many you might run in the future.
Okay, like if you're thinking about a media server or file sharing or...
Yep, exactly. If you're already juggling a few things, or you plan to, a cluster can help. It keeps things running smoothly.
Okay, what else?
Uptime. How important is it for things to stay running?
Like if you're running your own cloud storage.
Exactly. If it can't go down, a cluster helps with that.
Makes sense.
And then scalability. Will you need more power or storage later?
So like if more people are going to be using it.
Right. A cluster and NAS let you expand easily so you don't hit a wall.
I see. Okay, so this combo is really good for people who are serious about their home labs. But how does it actually work in the real world? What are some examples?
Okay, imagine this. You have Jellyfin, right? Your media server.
Yeah.
And everyone in your family is streaming movies at the same time.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
With a cluster, you can have one server just for Jellyfin and another one for other stuff like file sharing or whatever.
So no more buffering.
Exactly. Everything runs smooth. And the NAS. It keeps all those movie files organized and ready to go.
Nice.
It's all about efficiency.
Okay, but is it ever overkill?
Sure. If you're just doing some basic stuff, a single Proxmox server is probably fine. It's like you don't need a Ferrari to go to the grocery store, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah, good point. But for those who are ready for that Ferrari, this cluster plus NAS is the way to go.
Exactly. It's powerful, it's flexible, and it's ready for anything.
I'm sold. But now I'm curious about the how. What kind of hardware do we need?
Yeah.
How does the network work? What are the challenges?
We'll get into all that good stuff next time. But for now, just think about this. What excites you most about this whole setup?
Ooh, good question. Honestly, it's the power and the flexibility. Like knowing that my home lab could handle anything I throw at it, and that it can grow with me. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, and the high availability thing? That's a game changer.
Peace of mind is a big deal.
Totally. It's like, I can rely on this thing, but okay, I'm ready to learn how to actually build this. What are the first steps?
We'll dive into all the practicalities after a quick break. Stay tuned.
Okay, so we know this Proxmox cluster with a NAS is powerful, but I'm ready to get my hands dirty. What kind of hardware do we actually need? Do I need, like, supercomputers?
Nah, not at all. Proxmox is actually pretty flexible. You can use, like, old desktops or even servers you have lying around, as long as they meet the minimum requirements.
Oh, okay, so it's not super demanding.
Not really. You can check the Proxmox website. They have a guide for recommended hardware, but basically you'll need a CPU with a few cores, some RAM, and enough storage for your virtual machines and stuff.
All right, so nothing too crazy. What about the NAS? Any specific kind that works best?
You'll want one that supports NFS or ISCSI. Those are like the languages your servers and NAS use to talk to each other.
Oh, okay, so like communication protocols.
Yep, exactly. Most NAS devices support both, so you've got options.
Cool. Now, what about the network? We've got all these servers and a NAS talking to each other. That's a lot of data flying around.
You're telling me. A good network is key. You'll want gigabit Ethernet at least, so make sure your router and switches can handle it.
Gigabit Ethernet. Got it. What if you're doing like really heavy stuff, like tons of video streaming?
Then you might want to think about 10 gigabit. But for most home labs, gigabit is plenty.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, security. Got to keep everything safe, right?
Absolutely. Proxmox has good security features built in, like firewalls to control traffic and access control so only the right people can get it.
So it's like multiple layers of protection.
You got it. But you got to do your part too. Keep your software updated. That's huge. And backups. Always have backup.
Backups. Got it. Okay, now for the fun part, performance. How much faster does this setup actually make my home lab?
Okay, imagine you're editing a video, right? And it's like hours of 4K footage.
Oof. Yeah, that would take forever.
With a cluster, you can split that work across multiple servers, so it gets done way faster.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
Or think about a game server. One server can run the game, another can handle voice chat. No lag. Everyone's happy.
Okay, I'm seeing the benefits here. And the NAS plays a part in this too, right?
Big time. The NAS makes sure your data is always accessible, super fast, especially important for things like streaming video or running virtual machines.
So the servers do the work, and the NAS keeps the data flowing.
Exactly. It's a team effort.
Love it. Now, what happens when my home lab needs to grow? Can I add more stuff later?
That's the beauty of it. Need more power. Add another server to the cluster. Need more storage. Just pop another hard drive in the NAS. Easy peasy.
Wow, so it's like future-proof.
Pretty much. You can scale things up as you go. No need to start over.
That's awesome. Okay, last question. When is this whole setup too much?
Good question. Honestly, if you're just messing around with some personal projects, a single Proxmox server is probably all you need.
So, like, start small and then upgrade if you need to.
Exactly. This cluster plus NAS combo, it's for people who are really serious about their home labs. Multiple services, lots of data, high uptime, that kind of thing.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've covered the hardware, the network, performance, scalability. What are some key things our listeners should take away from all this?
Well, first, don't be intimidated. Proxmox and NAS, they're not as complicated as they sound. There are tons of resources out there to help you.
Right, like the Proxmox community is really helpful, I've heard.
Oh, yeah, super helpful. And my biggest piece of advice, don't be afraid to experiment. Try things out, break things, learn as you go. That's the best way to master your home lab.
I love that. Experimentation is key. Okay, so final thoughts. Why should someone build this setup? What are the big rewards?
Freedom, flexibility, control. You're building your own cloud platform on your own terms. No more relying on other companies. It's all yours.
So, like, ultimate home lab goals.
Exactly. And it's not just about the tech. It's about the journey, the learning, the challenges, the satisfaction of building something awesome.
I'm feeling inspired. This has been a great deep dive. We've learned a lot about Proxmox clusters and NAS.
Yeah.
What are some final words of wisdom for our listeners?
Just do it. Dive in, have fun, and don't be afraid to ask for help. The home lab community is waiting for you.
Okay, so we've explored the what and the why of Proxmox clusters with a NAS. Now let's talk about the how. How do we actually make this happen?
Well, first thing is, like, figure out what you want. What's your home lab going to do? Virtual machines. containers, what kind of services. Once you know that, you can pick the right hardware and software.
Right, so start with a plan.
Exactly. And then think about your hardware. You don't need like the latest and greatest stuff to get started. Older desktops, servers, even building your own. Just make sure it can handle Proxmox.
Yeah, we talked about that. Check the Proxmox website for their recommendations.
Hmm.
What about the NAS? Anything specific there?
Yeah, think about how much storage you'll need. Movies, backups, virtual machine images. Figure that out first.
Okay, storage is key.
What else? Performance. If you're going to be doing a lot of heavy lifting, you need a NAS that can keep up. A good processor, lots of RAM, fast hard drives.
Got it. So we got the plan, we got the hardware, now what?
Time to install and configure. Proxmox is actually pretty easy to install. Their website has great guides, and there are tons of videos online.
Okay, that sounds manageable. But what if you get stuck?
The Proxmox community is amazing. Forums, Reddit, all sorts of places where people can help you out. Don't be afraid to ask questions.
That's great to know. A whole community of Homelab nerds ready to help. But seriously, what are the big payoffs here? Why go through all this trouble?
Freedom. You're building your own cloud. No more relying on Google or Amazon or whoever. You control everything. It's secure, reliable, and you can make it exactly what you need.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. It's like the ultimate home lab dream.
Totally. And it's fun. Don't forget that part. Experiment, try new things, learn as you go. It's a journey.
I love that. Building a home lab should be fun. Okay, any final words of wisdom for our listeners before we wrap up?
Don't overthink it. Just dive in. And remember, the Home Lab community is always there to help you out. Have fun and enjoy the journey.
That's great advice. Well, that's it for a deep dive on Proxmox clusters with a NAS. We hope you learned a lot and that you're inspired to start building your own awesome home lab.